Sydney, the oldest, biggest, and most beautiful of all Australian cities, lies amid a seductive intermingling of land and sea. Glide along the glittering harbour on a ferry, see the white sails of the Opera House gleaming in the sunshine, and admire the graceful arch of the harbour bridge. And it's hard to imagine this vibrant state capital was once a brutal convict colony. In 1788, it was at Sydney Cove where Captain Arthur Phillip, commander of the First Fleet, established the first British colony in Australia. Today, visitors can explore Sydney's fabled history in the narrow cobbled laneways and historic buildings of the Rocks, at the city's excellent museums, and the rock paintings of the Gadigal Aboriginal people who once thrived on this land. Sydney still fizzes with the adventurous spirit of its settlers. Visitors can climb the harbour bridge, surf the green barrel breaks at Sydney's golden beaches, or fly over the city on a scenic tour. And national parks surround the city, providing appealing day trip possibilities. One of the world's great icons, the Sydney Opera House, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the star attraction on the glittering harbour. This graceful building, shaped like shells or billowing sails, perches on a finger of land surrounded by water. Snap a photo while gliding by on a harbour cruise, relax at one of the restaurants, stroll around its exterior, or take an organised tour of this magnificent structure, which encompasses theatres, studios, exhibition rooms, a concert hall, and cinema. Book a Sydney Opera House guided walking tour to learn about the history and get a behind-the-scenes look at this famous building. This is a flexible ticket that allows you to join any one of the tours throughout the day, departing every half hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Avid photographers head to Mrs. Macquarie's chair for one of the best photo opportunities. Hours guided tours are available daily, 9 a.m. 5 p.m. admission free. Entry to the foyer and eateries varies for guided tours and events. Read more. Sydney Opera House, a visitor's guide. The Sydney Harbour Bridge, a coat hanger, as the locals call it, was the city's best-known landmark prior to construction of the Opera House, supported by massive double piers at each end. It was built in 1932 and remains the world's largest steel arch bridge, connecting the harbour's north and south shores in a single curve rising 134 meters above the water. Along its length run 2 railway lines and 8 lanes for road traffic, the direction of which can be varied according to traffic flow. Increasing bridge traffic encouraged construction of a harbour tunnel in 1992 to ease congestion, but motorists can still drive over the bridge for blue water views. Pedestrians can stroll across on walkways or join a guided ascent through bridge climb for a breathtaking panorama of the city and harbour. To learn about the fascinating history of the bridge's construction, visit the museum in the southeastern pier. Daring souls who want to climb to the 135-metre-high summit can book the Sydney Bridge Climb. This is a spectacular opportunity that takes groups of up to 13 people on an approximately 3.5-hour climb to the top of the outer arch. Tours run throughout the day, beginning with a dawn climb and ending with a night climb. 1.5-hour sampler climbs and 2.25-hour express climbs are also available. On a tongue of land protruding into Sydney Harbour, the Rocks historic area was once home to the Gadigal Aboriginal people and later became the country's first site of European settlement. The name of the Rocks comes from the rocky coast on the west side of Sydney Cove, where the convicts pitch the tents. Today, more than 100 heritage sites and buildings jostle along the narrow streets, including Sydney's oldest surviving house, Cadman's Cottage, built in 1816. First stop should be a visit to the Rocks Discovery Museum, which traces the area's fascinating transformation from traditional Aboriginal lands to convict slum to tourist hotspot. Afterwards, wander around the narrow cobbled streets with their souvenir shops, restaurants, cafe, and Aboriginal and contemporary art galleries, or shop at the market stalls. Guided tours run the gamut from Aboriginal heritage walks to photographic excursions and nighttime ghost tours. Built by convict labour in Sydney Cove, bustling circular quay is now home to the city's main ferry terminal. Thousands of commuters flood the area at peak hours. Cafe abound, and street performers entertain locals and visitors along the sunny walkways. For tourists, this is a launching point for the popular harbour cruises, one of the best ways to appreciate Sydney's sparkling waterfront setting. Ferries also depart from here to prime spots such as Manly, Watson's Bay, and Taronga Park Zoo. The zoo is a great family outing and a good way to see some of Australia's famous native wildlife, as well as animals from around the world. Purchase a Sydney-Taronga Zoo entry ticket in advance, which includes a ride on the Sky Safari gondola. During the annual winter migration, whale-watching cruises take passengers out past Sydney Heads to view these magnificent creatures. From Circular Quay, head south along the waterfront promenade to the Opera House and Royal Botanic Gardens, while a short walk to the north leads to the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Rocks Historic Area. To the west, the Free Museum of Contemporary Art, housed in an Art Deco building, displays cutting-edge and often controversial exhibitions. A hub for tourists and locals alike, Darling Harbour is a waterfront pedestrian precinct packed with shops, restaurants, museums, exhibitions, and entertainment venues. Families will love Madame Tussauds, the Wildlife Sydney Zoo, and the Sea Life Sydney Aquarium, which contains the world's largest collection of Australian marine creatures. The Skip the Line Sea Life Sydney Aquarium entrance ticket is a great way to get ahead of the crowds, and it also offers discounts on other attractions. Powerhouse Museum offers interactive exhibits on science, technology, design, and history, while nautical-minded history buffs can board a replica of Captain Cook's ship, Endeavour, at the Australian National Maritime Museum. Younger children will love the carousel, playground, and water park. An IMAX and 9D theatre, harbour jet boat rides, simulated flights and racing car adventures round out the exciting attractions. Those seeking a tranquil patch of green amid all the excitement can slip into the Chinese Garden of Friendship and sip tea among the willows and koi ponds. Read more. 8 top-rated tourist attractions in Sydney's Darling Harbour. A high point of Sydney shopping is the Romanesque-style Queen Victoria Building QVB, linked by underground arcades with Town Hall Station. Originally built as a market hall between 1893 and 1898, this elegant building is crowned by a high central dome surrounded by 20 smaller domes. After decades of neglect and even plans for demolition, this grand sandstone building was restored to its original state in the early 80s. Today, more than 200 high-end shops line its light-filled galleries. It's worth a visit even for those who shun the shops, just to admire its successful restoration as well as its beautiful stained glass windows and mosaic floors. Hours: Monsat 9 a.m. 6 p.m. Sunday 11 a.m. 5 p.m. Admission free. Soaring above the city skyline, the 309 m high Sydney Tower is the city's tallest building and one of its great landmarks other than the Opera House and Harbour Bridge, of course. This golden spire-topped turret rises from the busy Centre Point shopping mall. Express lifts whisk visitors to the observation deck at the top at a skywalk, an alfresco glass floor viewing platform. While up there, sightseers can enjoy panoramic views of Sydney and its surrounding suburbs or grab a bite to eat at one of the revolving restaurants or the cafe. Also in offer is a 4D cinema experience, which provides an overview of the city's major icons. Hours: open daily 9 a.m. 10:30 p.m. Admission adult $18.20, child $10.50. Extra for Skywalk. Sydney is famous for its fabulous beaches. Tucked around the harbour are many sheltered coves with calm water and sugary sands. Less than a 15-minute drive from the city, iconic Bondi Beach beckons with its great surf cafe scene and cosmopolitan vibe. For fantastic ocean views, take the coastal walk along the cliffs from Bondi to Coogee. Other ocean beaches include Cronulla, the only one easily accessible by train from the city, Bronte, Tamarama, and Maroubra. A 30-minute ferry ride from the city. Manly is a favourite seaside destination with its beachfront promenade, netted ocean pool, and excellent shops and restaurants. Further north of the city, surfers will find some fantastic breaks at Collaroy, DY, and Narrabeen. Swimmers should stay between the red and yellow flags. The volunteer lifeguards patrol the surfing beaches on the Pacific during the summer and run popular life-saving competitions. Read more. Top beaches in Sydney, Australia. The oldest street in Australia, George Street, was once a nameless track trodden by convicts fetching supplies of water. Today, it's one of the city's major traffic arteries where high-rise office blocks, shops, and historic buildings converge in an incongruous jumble. An architectural highlight is the elegant Romanesque-style Queen Victoria building, replete with graceful domes, stained glass windows, and high-end stores. Nearby, the Sydney Town Hall 1869 is a major city landmark sporting a medley of architectural styles. It's been compared to a richly decorated wedding cake. Another architectural standout is the neo-Gothic St. Andrew's Cathedral, completed and consecrated in 1868. Shoppers will find plenty of stores in the area. Designer boutiques and jewelry stores line the Victorian-style Strand Arcade, while Pitt Street Mall, one block east from George Street, is one of the city's major shopping precincts. A tranquil oasis amid the hustle and bustle of the city, the Royal Botanic Gardens at Farm Cove lies a short and scenic stroll along the waterfront from the Sydney Opera House. The gardens were established in 1816 and encompass 30 hectares of themed gardens with towering trees, palm groves, orchids, ferns, and flocks of fruit bats. Among the highlights is the Palace Rose Garden, which includes some 1,800 roses, and the Rare and Threatened Plants Garden. For the less energetic, a hop-on, hop-off train tours the grounds. After exploring the gardens, visitors can relax at the cafe or restaurants, or enjoy a hillside picnic with beautiful harbor views. Surrounding the gardens is the Domain, a popular event venue with open green space and sports areas. While at the gardens, visitors can enjoy views of Government House, the official residence of the Governor of New South Wales. Hours: October 7 am 7:30 pm, November February 7 am 8 pm, March 7 am 6:30 pm, April September 7 am 6 pm, May August 7 am 5:30 pm, June July 7 am 5 pm. Admission free about 2 kilometers east of the CBD. King's Cross, or the Cross as locals call it, is Sydney's multifaceted red light district with an intriguing, bohemian past. The area was an artistic quarter around 1920, until it evolved into a popular haunt for beatniks during the 1950s and, later, hippies. During the Vietnam War, the area started its slow slide to depravity when large numbers of American troops came here on rest and recreation leave. Despite its less than savory reputation at night, during the day, it wears a different face. Backpackers from the many hostels in the area huddle at hip cafes, boutique hotels, beckon, and foodies come here to dine at the trendy restaurants. Look for the large Coca-Cola billboard at the intersection of William Street and Darlinghurst Road, which is often referred to as the gateway to the Cross. Enjoy close-up encounters with exotic wildlife plus superb views of the Sydney skyline at Taronga Zoo. Nestled on a point along the north side of the harbour, the zoo inhabits prime Sydney real estate in the posh suburb of Mossman. Highlights include the Lemur Adventure Park, Koala Encounter, and Seal Show. For the city, buses to the zoo depart from Wynyard. Better still, visitors can hop aboard a ferry at Circular Quay. The zoo's lively events calendar includes Roar and Snore overnight zoo stays and a summer concert series. Hours: open daily 9:30 am 5 pm September 9:30 am 4:40 pm Mayock. Admission: adults $44, children 415 years $22. Amid all the din of the central business district, Hyde Park is a sanctuary of sprawling lawns, shady picnic spots, flowers, fountains, and fig trees. Like a mini Central Park, this welcome patch of green, named after Hyde Park in London, offers prime people watching, especially at lunch when city workers come here to kick off their shoes. The park's bronze Archibald Fountain 1932 commemorates Australia's alliance with France during World War I, while the Art Deco Anzac War Memorial 1934 in the southern half of the park honors its victims. At the north end of Hyde Park, in Queen's Square, are three fine Georgian buildings, masterpieces of the convict architect Sir Francis Greenway: the Hyde Park Barracks, St James Church, and the Supreme Court. Built by convict labour in 181,719, Hyde Park Barracks was restored to its original condition in 197,584 and now houses a museum on the history of Sydney portraying the lives of the first involuntary settlers. On the east side of Hyde Park is the Australian Museum with the largest natural history collection in the country. Admission free to visit the park and Anzac War Memorial surrounded by beautiful parklands. The Art Gallery of New South Wales is one of the country's most distinguished art museums. The building dates from 1885 and houses spacious light-filled galleries and headcourts with collections ranging from works by the European masters and Asian artists to evocative contemporary art from around the world. The gallery also houses one of the largest collections of Aboriginal art in Australia. After admiring all the masterpieces, art lovers can relax at the cafe or restaurant, or browse the gallery gift shop. Hours open daily 10 a.m. 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Admission free. Facing Hyde Park, St. Mary's Cathedral 186,882 is a symbol of the spiritual beginnings of the Catholic Church in Australia. This striking landmark, in neo-Gothic style, is the seat of the Archbishop of Sydney. Topped by twin spires, the building was modelled on Lincoln Cathedral, and its imposing facade reflects the design of Notre Dame in Paris. Inside the cathedral, intricate stained glass windows cast beautiful patterns of light. Christmas is an especially evocative time to visit when the cathedral is adorned with lights and decorations. Stretching from Hyde Park in the south to the Sydney Opera House in the north, Macquarie Street was once Sydney's most fashionable street. Governor Macquarie commissioned the construction of many of the colony's grand public buildings along this strand, some designed by convict architect Francis Greenway. Impressive sandstone residences soon followed, with verandas to capture the beautiful views of the surrounding parklands and Sydney Harbour. In 1816, the completion of Sydney Hospital on Macquarie Street encouraged doctors to set up offices along nearby. But the hospital's capacity exceeded demand, and legislative officers moved into some of its buildings. Today, Parliament House occupies the hospital's northern wing and is open to the public when the New South Wales Parliament is in session. The Old Sydney Mint inhabits the hospital's southern wing, which is now home to a library, central courtyard, and cafe. Also in Macquarie Street is the State Library, the oldest library in Australia. Among its jewels are the journals of Captain Cook and Joseph Banks, as well as Captain Bligh's log from the Bounty. Inhale the fragrance of sizzling Sichuan spices, shop for Chinese specialty items, or feast on authentic Asian cuisine at Sydney's Chinatown. Framed by lion gates at each end, this small district lies in the pedestrian zone of Dixon Street between Darling Harbour and Central Station. Yum cha is a popular pastime here, and the Friday night market is a feast for the senses, with everything from dim sum and Vietnamese photo teppanyaki. On the first full moon after January 21, the streets of Chinatown come alive during the celebration of the Chinese New Year. Near Chinatown, Paddy's Markets is a Sydney institution from Wednesdays through Sundays, with hundreds of stalls selling fresh produce, bargain fashions, and souvenirs. For first-time visitors to Sydney, a fantastic base for sightseeing is the Rocks, the city's historic district, with its spectacular harbour of views, heritage-listed buildings, museums, shops, galleries, and cute courtyard cafe. From here, many of Sydney's top attractions are within easy walking distance, including the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, and the Royal Botanic Gardens. Also a short stroll from here is Circular Quay, the departure point for harbour cruises and ferries. Here are some highly rated hotels in the area. Luxury accommodation. Deluxe hotel options include the Harbourfront Park Hyatt, one of the country's top hotels, the sumptuous Shangri-La Hotel, and the Four Seasons, all with stunning harbour views. Mid-range accommodation. The boutique Harbour Rocks Hotel welcomes guests in a cozy converted warehouse close to Circular Quay Ferry Terminal. For families and travelers seeking apartment-style accommodation, Key West Suites is a top choice, while the Marriott Sydney Harbour at Circular Quay sits a little closer to the bustling malls of the city centre. Budget accommodation. For cost-conscious travellers, the Australian Heritage Hotel and the Mercantile Hotel offer affordable rooms in a superb location. In contrast to the regular and spacious layout of the younger Australian cities, Sydney is a complicated maze of one-way streets and narrow lanes. Public transport tours are highly recommended for first-time visitors. See the sights. For the best introduction to the sights of Sydney, book a Sydney and Bondi hop-on hop-off bus tour, which stops near the major sites in the city centre, around the harbour, and Bondi Beach. Tickets are valid for 24 or 48 hours, and passengers can get off and on the bus as often as they please. Get out on the water. Sydney whale watching cruises are a great way to see some of these majestic giants in the wild. It also offers a chance to see Sydney Harbour from the water. Take a day trip. Just a short drive outside the city is some spectacular mountain scenery. If you have time for just one day trip, take the Blue Mountains Nature and Wildlife Day Tour from Sydney. This small group tour provides pick-up and drop-off from your hotel, lunch, entrance fee to the Featherdale Wildlife Park, and a guide. Hotels.